Hello there, I'm Dark Shades, broadcasting out of the east of England into your homes, onto your phones, or whatever device you're using. Welcome to my channel. If it's the first time you're passing by, you may want to subscribe because I'm pretty ad hoc. I'm never sure what I'm going to do, what I'm going to talk about, how I'm going to look. So I'm kind of spontaneous like that. You can either comment if you feel as though there's something that I've spoken about that triggers or resonates with you. You can put the thumbs up if you agree with what I say, or even if you just like the tone of my voice. Or you can put the thumbs down if you think I'm talking a load of nonsense. Now, I had a request. Sometimes I do videos based on a vibe or an inspiration that I get. Sometimes I do a video based on what somebody's asked me to talk about. And of course, I don't know about anything, so I just give my opinion. So the message I got was, are we all on the spectrum of autism? Do we appreciate that a lot of us actually are, and stress can manifest because of misunderstanding? Now, I thought that was quite interesting because we kind of tend to think of autism as being something that is totally disassociated with us. And when the doctors and the scientists make these diagnoses, they make them based on what they perceive as normal. Now, what is normal? Normal is something that is, all things being equal, people behave in a certain way. But like now, we have the COVID restrictions and we have imminent lockdowns and we've got curfews, and people are behaving abnormally. They're behaving outside the norm. And they could be considered now on the autistic spectrum. So what is autism, or how do they define autism? It is an unusual interest in objects. Well, I was listening to somebody obsessing about Lego the other day. You've got people obsessing about phones, all kinds of gadgets. You know, there's all kinds of things that people are obsessed with or have an unusual interest in. That's the term that they use. So does that mean that those people who are interested in Lego, interested in social media, are interested in the laptops or whatever gadgets they're using these days? I don't know. So many new gadgets out. But does that mean that they are on the autistic spectrum? Problems with social interaction with others? Well, a lot of us are being forced into having problems with social interaction, aren't we? We're not allowed to socially interact. So, do we have a problem with it? Some people are adjusting to it, some people aren't. So those who are not adjusting to it, are they considered normal? So, and also it's a need for sameness. People on the autistic spectrum, they don't like change. Well, you could say that about all of us. Do we like being locked up? Do we like adhering to curfew rules and other restrictions? How do we feel about not being able to go to work and staying at home? Being forced to get home at a certain time. Be forced to walk in a certain direction. Be forced to now wear masks. We want things to stay the same, don't we? And a need for sameness, that's considered on the autistic spectrum. So because now all of a sudden it has been brought to light that we want things to remain the same how they used to be, it now is brought to light that, are we on the autistic spectrum then? Because we also like things to remain the same. So there's also a great variation in abilities. Well, I think that goes without saying. We all have a great variation in abilities. I used to look after this little 4-year-old. He was a cute little thing. And he was only about 3 or 4, but he'd go in the back of the, I was a family worker at the time. And he'd go in the back where they had this kind of garden, and he'd pick up a flower with all these petals, and he would just constantly pick off all the petals, and he'd go down the whole of the side of the garden and pick off all the petals one by one by one. And he was quite happy doing that repetition. Now, okay, so we might not be doing that kind of repetition, such an obvious repetition, but there are things that we do repeatedly every day. We do have routines, and they might not be obvious as picking up a petal because that is his focus, but the same way we have our routines and we do things repeatedly throughout the day, there is no real difference. So when people are giving out diagnoses for autism and all these other kind of, I don't even know what you call them, clinical diagnosis, I guess, or analysis, it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with them. It's just that, like skin color, people are different. People look at things differently. Things affect people differently. And so you're either high on the autistic spectrum, or you're low on the autistic spectrum, or you're in between. COVID-19 could push a lot of us high on the autistic spectrum that we didn't even realize that we had. We didn't realize we had that kind of, those traits. So they also have an under or overreaction to one or more of the 5 senses. Sight, apparently they have a problem with eye contact. Touch, they love to feel things. Taste, I'm not quite sure what the taste bit is. Smell, hearing. Sometimes they take longer to understand what you tell them. But people who have literacy problems, they take longer to understand. People who have a different language, they take longer to understand. So these are quite generalized statements about what it means to be on the autistic spectrum. Apparently, autism is caused by abnormalities to the brain structure or function. But we all know that repetition can change the brain structure. Repetition by the news, repetition by the media, repetition by all of this stuff that's going around. It can cause an abnormality that's why they call it mental illness. People are going bloody crazy. Because their brain structure is changing with all what's going in, what they're taking in. And that's why people are saying minimize the intake of what you watch on TV. I mean, now I'm hardly even looking at my WhatsApps and the breaking news because I don't want it to affect the way I think or affect my mood. And it will go without saying that these flashes that you see and everything that we see during the day that's just kind of funneling in from all different directions is going to affect the way you feel. So you have to try and diffuse that. Listen to the radio. Yes, on the radio, they're going to have news flashes, but it's not as, it doesn't affect you the same as the visual and the flashing. You don't even realize that things are flashing. The only time I knew that something was flashing, I went into one of these Green King restaurants and there was this little boy there and he was fiddling around with the knob on the TV. And so I thought, oh, he wants a TV on. So I switched it on and next thing you know, he went into some bloody hissy. He went into some fit. He was autistic and all the lights on the bloody TV triggered it. But I wouldn't have, as you know, I noticed the flashing lights. And yes, I can dismiss it and I think, oh, that is a bit busy. But for a child, that is too much. But sometimes we get so used to the flash and the lights and everything that happens on our TV screen, we're not affected by it. But it doesn't mean that they're not there. And it doesn't mean that subconsciously we don't react to that. We probably do, and it probably affects us in some kind of absurd way. I don't know. But in answer to that lady's question, or was it a question? Yeah, it was. Are we all on the spectrum of autism? And do we appreciate that a lot of us actually are, and stress from and stress can manifest it because of misunderstanding. Yeah, so yeah, I tried to put something in there myself, but yeah, it didn't work. But yeah, I think I hope I hope I've kind of raised some kind of thoughts, because sometimes I just want to kind of get people thinking. Sometimes I might be talking a load of crap. I don't know. I'm not an expert. I'm not an authority on any subjects. I just put my opinion out there. Some people comment, some people agree, some people don't. And it's the way life goes. So, anyway, have a wonderful day. And that's all for now. Bye bye.